right, welcome back to another episode of Phoenix Edge. This is an RPG podcast. This is the second time we're doing this, but my name is Hat.
I'm Eric.
And I'm Matt.
And Matt's joining us. He's from Jam Gamecast. He's going to be giving us his impressions on Octopath Traveler. But we also have a topic surrounding the Final Fantasy 7 Remake. And then we're going to be talking about some game collecting as well. But before we get into that, Matt, go ahead and fill us in on what you do at your Jam Gamecast YouTube channel.
Yeah, sure. It started out as just a podcast between me and my brother. His name's Jim. My name's Matt. That's how we came up with Jam and Matt Gamecast.
Makes sense.
So originally we did a lot of podcasts, but I realized very quickly that we start to run out of things to talk about, and especially because I'm more into JRPGs and RPGs, and he's really into the whole MOBA thing and online gaming and everything. He plays Fortnite and all that stuff, and I'm not really into that. So I wanted to do more things surrounded around JRPGs. So I started doing I didn't like to call them reviews per se. It's just me talking about my impressions on different JRPGs. So I just talk about basically what I thought of the game and some different thoughts and dislikes and likes I had about the games. So I do a lot of those, and I also do collection videos. I've done, mainly Sony stuff. The Vita, I love the Vita. I've done a PSP one. I did a PS3 one and a PS2 one, and I did a Wii one as well.
Very cool. Yeah, I think the first thing I checked out from your channel was your I Am Setsuna review. And I really liked your thoughts on that. It was a really well-constructed analysis on the game, I thought. So, and then I saw you recently did Trails in the Sky, which I know Eric has been trying to work through that game slowly but surely. So,
yeah, I think me and Eric had some of the similar thoughts on the game. When I watched your podcast on it and Eric was talking about it, I agreed with a lot of things he had to say about it.
It seems to be a popular opinion, actually. The interesting thing about the more diehard fans of the Trail series is that they acknowledge the criticisms I have, but they're still okay with it. And they're like, well, and from our perspective, it's like we like the world building aspect of it, despite a lot of the scenes feeling like they drag on or anything like that. I'm like, okay, that's cool. I can totally dig that. But like, some people do like that type of dialogue, which is the same criticism I have of Golden Sun, which is like the dialogue just goes on forever and I'm just slamming my head on the table begging for it to stop. But I still enjoyed the game.
Yeah, it's definitely, the world is huge, and they definitely do a good job of creating this world and kind of making you feel into the world and really kind of pull you into it. Although it did take me about like 10 hours before I really felt like, okay, I'm into this game now and I'm really digging it. But then, like I said, and I said in my review, I said, it's a good game. I enjoyed it, but it definitely wouldn't make my top 10, which I didn't really get any criticism on that except for one person. I posted the video on some Facebook group that I'm in, and I got one person that came back and was like, what? Trails in the Sky is not in your top 10? You have to reevaluate your whole entire JRPG list and everything. And I was just like, whatever, it's my opinion, So I only got one person that kind of didn't like that I said that.
Oh, but they're the fun ones.
Yeah. I don't really, it is what it is. I don't take it too seriously. That's kind of a point with my channel. I try not to take it too seriously. Like, this is just a fun little side thing that I do,
Yeah, and I kind of got that from watching, but, maybe that one individual, maybe he's only played 10 games, so maybe that's why. I don't know,
Could be, yeah.
But very cool. So, everyone go check out Jam Gamecast. Subscribe to his channel. He's got lots of variety of content. I saw you had the podcast on there, and then, like you said, you had the game collecting, and then some reviews on there as well. So a lot of cool stuff on there to check out. Are you still doing the podcast eventually? Is that coming back, or you kind of gave up on that?
We do have we've talked about some episodes we want to do. We're talking about doing sort of like a retrospective on the Nintendo 64. So I think that's one we're going to eventually do. And then we're actually kind of going to do one on Sword Art Online. We both kind of just recently discovered that anime. And we both really enjoyed it. So we're actually kind of talking about doing an episode on that as well.
Very cool. Well, I'll be checking all that out if you get around to it. So, anyways,
yeah,
go check his channel out. It's really good stuff.
Yeah, thank you.
But moving on, we've all picked up Octopath Traveler. I got to the GameStop nearby at 9 a.m. right when it opened because I was worried that there was a small chance they might not have it, but apparently they had plenty in stock. No cause for alarm. Did you all have any issues getting the game, or?
No, I just went in and grabbed it during my lunch break.
Yeah, I didn't have any issues. Mine opened at 10 a.m., my local store. So I got there 2 minutes after 10 and walked right in. And there was one other person there buying it. And in fact, the employee had to go in the back and get the box out and open up the box so he could take out the game. And there was no mad rush or anything like that.
Yeah, well, it's kind of interesting because, you know, when it kind of shows like or at least for me, like the bubble you live in, because to me, like this was like a huge day. I woke up and I was like, oh, today's Octopath Traveler Day. And I'm thinking like, oh, dude, there's going to be, you know, a line out the door. And, you know, of course, it's just my world I'm living in. But Matt, we were talking a little bit right before this started, and I saw the same thing you did, that and so, apparently in some locations, like they did run out. Or I think what I saw was, Square Enix actually like issued an apology because I think it was actually in Japan, like some of the stores actually ran out of stock of the game, which is pretty good for them. So that's pretty cool.
That's what I had saw as well. I think it was mainly in Japan. People were having major issues finding the game, and a lot of retailers were just sold out of it. You know.
Well, at least the good thing is it's available digitally. Can't find a physical copy, then, you know, as much as I'm not for digital, it's, you know, it's an option if you truly can't find one in your area.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, well, that was sort of my backup plan when you guys invited me on. I was like, okay, I definitely have to get the game. And I was like, if I can't get it, I'll just download it.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Because last week we said, you know, hey, we'll talk about it next podcast. And then I thought, well, man, what if I don't get it on Friday? What am I going to do? But I'm glad we got it.
I mean, I see it as a good thing if it's getting sold out, because that just shows Square Enix like, oh, people are buying JRPGs for the Switch. Let's get that team like rolling along on these. Get some ports out there, anything. You know, if it's that successful, and then I want to see Square Enix definitely dive into it more. The Switch is like one of the ideal systems for JRPGs, especially Octopath over there.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I guess we can dive into it. Like, let's try to keep it spoiler free because I know a lot of people haven't played it, but I'm only about 15 hours into the game. I think you guys said you're around there, maybe 11 or 12.
Yeah, I'm 11.
So I think we're all still doing I say the first chapter, but like it's kind of weird. It's strange how the game lays it out where like each character is a chapter. They have their own chapter. And so you can stay in chapter 1 for easily. It feels like I might still be in chapter 1 20 hours into the game, possibly, unless I choose to go to chapter 2 on one of the other characters. But were you guys expecting that? Or because I was kind of expecting initially when I first saw trailers for this game, a more like structured experience where it was going to be more not choose your own adventure kind of thing, kind of like maybe the story would just progress and I would meet these characters along my journey. But it seems much more like you just kind of choose where you want to go. And I don't know. I didn't expect that, but what did you all think about that?
I mean, I thought it was going to be kind of messy at first, like handling all these 8 characters and the story and how everything's going to be woven in. But as I'm playing through it, the way I've been doing it right now is I've been going through everyone's chapter 1, getting all 8 characters. Mm-hmm. And I've gotten 6 out of 8. I'm working on the 6th one currently right now. And I'm glad that they've structured the map so well that you just know where everything is. If you want to go to that chapter 2, you can. You got to grind for it, but you can go to that chapter 2, and it's like marked on your map. And how the world map works, and all the signs telling you where to go. It's, you know, the structure works very well for it. At least they didn't make vague, like, okay, so you got to find where chapter 2 is for this certain character, or, you know, try to, I don't know the best way to put it, but it's just very well structured for it, is what I'm simply trying to say.
Yeah, I agree too. I mean, I just assumed it would be like any other JRPG. You know, you just start the game, and you, during your travels, you come across the other party members, and they join up with you, and you just go along with the story, you know. But so I wasn't expecting the way it's set up, but I do agree that it works for the game. Like Eric said, you know where everything is. And something else that I really like is, because I'm in the same boat, I'm doing the same thing that Eric is. I have 6 characters so far, and I'm doing all the chapter 1s first. And what I like as well, that you can see, okay, for chapter 2, my main character I picked is Therion, which is the thief. So I can see on the map, and it says like, okay, this is where you have to go for Therion's chapter 2. And it also suggests a level you should be at. So I think for Therion, it says like, you should probably be at level 22 before you come to this town and try to progress his story. So I really like that aspect of it.
Yeah, to kind of tag on to that, when you transitioned into like new areas also, it kind of lets you know, hey, like this is a suggested level of like, I think it calls it something like the danger level, which I find very helpful because I kind of like to explore. And, I've kind of not paid attention to that a few times, and, just gotten completely wiped out because I went to an area that was 10 levels higher than me. So it's really well. I think the big takeaway for me so far playing this game, and again, I think Eric, you were telling me somewhere that said that the game's possibly 100 hours if you do completely everything. I don't know.
That's what Nintendo rep said when I believe Pro Jared asked a Nintendo representative how long it would take to beat it if you did, everyone's quest,
story arc.
Yeah, story arc and the side quests are within them. It said it was roughly up to 100 hours.
So that's a long time, and that's good. That's a lot of money, content for your money. But the main takeaway I think I'm getting from this game is that aside from the visual style, which is awesome, I want more games that look like this. But mechanically, like this game is just very well built, whether it be from the world map, from the way the characters are lined out on the map and telling you where to go, or whether or not you're the correct level. But even down to this battle system, this is a really, really good battle system.
I agree. And like, it feels so good.
Yeah, and like each character I get is unique in combat. Like they have their own style of combat, and I find it very, very useful to I'm in this point where I think right now I have 6 characters. I'm working on the 7th, but I feel like I get down to where like I can only have 4 people in a party, and I want all 7. Like I usually in JRPGs, you're just like, well, these are like the 2 I really want, and the other ones I don't really care about. Like this one, I want all 7. But what do you guys think about the combat?
It's fantastic. It's it kind of reminds me of the Bravely Default system, but like in the reverse, where you get more points to over time if you don't use the boost system, and you can use it and wait up till you can like just go hardcore on the enemy, or you can just use it as soon as you get like another up. I like how it has a lot of variety in the options of what you can do in the combat, and then displays a weakness of them also, so which weapon is appropriate to use against the enemy once you've discovered it. And at first I had a little bit of a hard time getting into it, but as soon as I got an understanding of the system, it was much easier to take advantage of the exploiting and the weaknesses, because the hardest part of the game for me so far has felt like the very beginning when you just had your character. Because I started with Prim Rose, so I had just her daggers and her allure dances.
Yeah. Well, I think one thing that I do like, and this kind of reminds me of Final Fantasy IX a little bit, whereas if in Final Fantasy IX system, even at the end of the game, like very low level, like the $100 gil dagger that you got at the beginning of the game might be useful if it has a skill you need. In this game, even though you get a new character in your party that you have to travel with, even though they're level 1, they're still useful because their play style might have a weakness on an enemy. And even though they're only doing 4 damage, if it breaks the enemy, which is kind of like a stagger from Final Fantasy 13, but much better. If it breaks the enemy, all of a sudden that's like your MVP of the round. Like that just totally changed the tide of battle. Now, you can have your higher level characters go in and start dealing massive amounts of damage. It's just really well implemented. And some of the boss battles are actually difficult. They're not just walk in the parks. Like I actually had to really put some strategy into these. So
yeah, I grinded each character I got in my party. I got them at least like level 10 or something. I didn't want them going in at level 1.
Yeah.
What did you think of the battle system, Jim?
Yeah, I really liked it because I was afraid going into it because I feel like a lot of new games, they just overcomplicate things. And I think that if you've played a lot of traditional JRPGs, and like you guys have said, if you played a lot of the older Final Fantasy games, you're going to understand this battle system. Like it's nothing crazy or, ridiculously overcomplicated, or, they don't try to combine this with that and this, it's very, for me, a traditional style, I feel like, and that's not a negative thing for me. That's a good thing, that if you played, I feel like if you played Final Fantasy 6, 9, 7, I feel like you're going to really understand this battle system as well. So for me, I really love those older type of games. So for me, I really enjoyed this battle system. And you guys have mentioned too that when you get a new character, one of the things I was worried about, because they start at level 1, and I was afraid, I was thinking, this character is going to get wiped out as soon as we enter a battle. But like Hat was saying, you can see each enemy's weakness. So in most cases I found in the different areas, they have most of the monster's weakness are kind of directed around that new character that you just got. So they're going to have a lot of good spells or attacks to use. And so I found that, most times they're not getting wiped out. And if my other characters have been high enough where we win a battle, and then the new characters jump in 2 or 3 levels every time we win a new battle,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's really just well built. I've been having a lot of fun with it. I haven't gotten fatigued yet with random encounters. A lot of times with games with random encounters, after 3 or 4 hours, I'm just like rolling my eyes every time I get into another battle. I'm like, oh my God, not another one.
What I like about the battle system is that it's fast. Like you get in and you get out. It's like, it doesn't feel like any like long loading screens, or the battle animations are slow or, over the top to the point that you're just waiting for the next action to happen. It's kind of like Final Fantasy 6. You go in, as long as you know like the enemy weaknesses or know what your characters are using for it, you can get in and out of battles quick. And I think that's something that really helps the repetitive nature of random encounters not feel so bad in this game.
Yeah, I agree. They're so quick to the point where, if you're trying to explore and you get attacked, at least my experience has been, I'm done with most battles within a minute. So it doesn't really limit the amount of exploring that I feel like I can do.
Yeah, the only time the battles actually take a while, aside from like maybe boss battles, I've noticed is if I find myself trying to cheese it a little bit, where I'm just another random encounter and I just start mashing the OK button, attack, if I'm not putting much thought into it, it will take a while. So it kind of incentivizes you to actually use the system. And if you use the system, it goes by like that. So this team is just awesome at this type of stuff. One thing I did notice too that I didn't notice till today, but each character, they'll have like their own little technique outside of battle that they can use, like in towns when you talk to people. And I never really, I messed around with it a little bit and I thought, okay, whatever, this looks like something I'm probably never going to use. But I actually noticed it's actually very useful. For example, I started out with Alphen, the apothecary, I think is how you say it, but he has, I believe it's him who can inquire. I don't know if, I think that's him. I can't remember which character gave me that ability. But
I think it's Alphen.
Yeah, and what it does is when you go around and you inquire to different NPCs, you'll get various things, information that helps you. So usually it's something simple like, oh, there's a hidden item somewhere. But a lot of times when you talk to an NPC, inquire, you'll gain some extra information that'll make items at the shops cheaper, or it'll make staying at the inn free, which gives you a tremendous incentive to search those people out and try to find those people and find them in the town. Cause I was not talking to NPCs for a while and I started paying like 130 gold to stay at the end every night. And I was like, man, this is getting expensive. And then I found that and I was like, oh my God, this is way better, saving so much money. So, that is one thing. Sorry, go ahead. Were you going to say something?
Yeah, I was just going to maybe expand on it a little more. My experience was, like I said, I started with Therion, who's the thief. And one of the things I was noticing early on, I'm sorry?
Oh, I was going to say with his steal ability.
Yeah, exactly. He has the steal ability. So one of the things I noticed early on was I was having a hard time keeping money because what I usually do early on in the game is I start to buy like potions and healing stuff as early as I can to just kind of stock up on it. So I was having a hard time keeping money around. But then I realized when I steal stuff from people, like you can walk up and you can steal from anyone you can talk to.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
It gives you like a percentage of like, okay, you'll probably be 100% successful or 80%. I've noticed anything 80 or higher, I usually can get away with. Anything lower than that, they usually catch me. But what I started doing is I could steal items and then I could go to the shops and sell those items and kind of replenish my money supply.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, I still have to experiment with that some more. Because I just got the Thief Therion last night, and I did have a lot of fun going around stealing at first. Because everyone I talked to, it was like 100% chance to make it. But once it got to like 50 or 60%, I'm kind of on edge because it says there's this penalty, like, oh, like your reputation will be hurt if you're caught or something. I don't know what does that impact the price of the inn or something? Or
I think what it is because I've actually never have gone below, but if you try like I think they give you 4 chances, and if you get caught stealing 4 times, they say your reputation goes down. And then I think if your reputation goes down, the shopkeepers might want to not sell you things, or they'll charge you more for things. But like I said, I've never gone under the 4 times. So if I hit like one, if I get down the one, try, then I'm like, I'm not going to try anymore.
Yeah. You are right though about the money being an issue though. Cause man, like, well, some of the healing items are reasonably priced, but like I think it's the Olive of Life or something. But basically if you're a Final Fantasy fan, it's a Phoenix Down. Like it revives you, right?
Yeah.
Dude, it's like 500 gold.
Yeah, it is. It's 500.
Yeah, so I'm like, I find myself in the position where like I'm having to be more strategic because I don't want to like take the risk of me having to use one of those because 500 gold right now, like it takes me like 2 or 3 battles to get that, So
yeah,
that's why I keep Ophelia in my party. I already got Cure All and a raise with her.
Yeah,
okay.
Ophelia is very, very helpful.
Okay, cool. Yeah, because I start out with Alphen, and then I got Primrose, Olberic, I think is how you say it, Therion, Then I just got Annan. I don't know how to say her name.
Yeah, I don't know.
I forgot her name.
Yeah, she's like lives in the woods and
yeah,
I don't know.
She's like the hunter.
It's very interesting that so far I've come across that tribe is like the only tribe that has like a different accent and they speak in Old English.
And I don't think that's actually. I think in some parts of the dialogue, I don't think it's actually correct Old English. Like like it just. But go ahead.
Yeah, I felt like that too. It was like I needeth the oldest, cometh stoneth. It's like, oh come on.
Yeah, but
it's
then
like,
they would use like
a hunting tribe. It's like, why do they sound like this?
Yeah, that's a good point too. Why? I mean, maybe they haven't talked to people in a while. Like it's just like we're still talking like this. I don't know. That's a good point. I never even thought about that.
I would have expected this from Cyrus's story, not.
Yeah, dude. I just got Cyrus today too, and but anyways, I'm trying not to go too deep into those, but I think my one issue with this game is, I'm sure you all agree, is I do not like how the stories start where like you just walk into a town and you see a character with some green above their head and then you talk to them and it's like, all right, we're partners now. And it's like, no, like, why are we? Some of the characters, it doesn't make me like feel that bad about because it kind of makes sense. But with like, for example, Therion, the thief, everything we know about him from this backstory is he's kind of like a lone wolf a little bit, and he's had a bad experience working with people. And then like it's a weird when our party he's like, oh, you want to join? All right. Like it's like
that's exactly what I thought. I just got that in a few minutes ago to that point. I was like, wait a second, isn't this kind of contradicting the story that we're having right now? We literally just had a cutscene before where he's like, I don't like to work with people, and
yeah, then he just takes like at that point like 4 random people for me. Like I'm like, I don't know.
I tell you, what were you gonna say?
No, I was just gonna say I have the same. That's my main criticism with the game is that it just feels like they're trying to mesh 8 completely different stories together, and they're not even really, in my opinion, they're not even really doing a good job of it because. For example, I think it's the one girl. I think her name's like Tressa or something like that.
Yeah.
She goes to fight a bunch of pirates or whatever, and she has to go in a cave. And they say to her, "Oh, you shouldn't have come here alone." And I'm like, "Wait a minute, she's not alone. There's like 3 other people with her, Like,
yeah, that's where suspension of disbelief comes into play.
Yeah. Like to me, I'm like, they didn't even try to like mesh the stories together, Yeah,
I can understand the complications behind doing something like that, but it does feel a tad destroying at times when, like, especially what we were just talking about, Therion, and I don't know. I just decided to tell myself, this is just how it is. Just try to separate your mind from that because these are technically intros and you can pick any 8 characters from the start. So, you kind of have to see it from that type of perspective, which like I said, I didn't really care how that was approached, but I mean, that's fine.
Yeah. So I was going to say that I think like I'm trying to look at it on both sides. Like I see why they did it because, well, what they wanted is for you to kind of feel like you can like pave your own path. Like you said, choose any character you want. And I think in that regard, like I do have fun. Like whenever I finish a character, I like looking at my options. Like, oh, can I go to chapter 2 for this? Well, I'm not really high enough level yet, but like which character do I want to go to next? And it's kind of exciting. And, if you know other people that are playing it, like I was messaging Eric the other day, like, hey, like who have you gotten? He's like, oh, this is the direction I'm going. That's fun, but I'm not sure if like it was worth sacrificing a like solid narrative.
Yeah, because
that option.
When you make your games more and more open, a lot of times you fall under the risk of having not as strong as a narrative. And that's actually something that's more of a strong suit with JRPG Evolved is that because they're so narrative driven is that they can stay consistent and you don't have these like type of problems that like open world experiences like I don't know, like Skyrim or something like that may have. But I mean, that's why JRPGs were really popular, because they have like a streamlined their stories and everything. So when they're trying to mix that type of structure with the open-ended structure, that does feel destroying for it. And I don't know. I mean, I wish the characters had more interconnection in the game, and I don't think that's going to be a thing. We don't know how it ends up. We don't know if they'll ultimately interconnect, but at the end of the game, but ultimately, for what it is right now, they don't interconnect. And I think that is something that hurts the narrative, even though these individual stories so far are pretty good.
Yeah, the individual stories are really good, because what I originally, before I knew how it was set up and how it was going to work, I kind of just planned on, I was like, okay, I'm going to pick one character and I'm just going to go through the story. But as we kind of said, you can't really do that, because to move on to the next chapter, you have to be at a certain level, and you
just got to grind.
Yeah, you'd have to do a lot of grinding to get to that level. So what I found that I'm doing is I'm saying, like, okay, well, I'm just going to do everyone's chapter 1, and hopefully when I'm done that, I'll be at the next level. I'll be at the level to move on to chapter 2 for everybody, you know? So it kind of made me change my strategy going into it, the way that it's structured. But
go ahead. Sorry.
One thing I want to ask you guys is, are you guys, because when you go up to the person, like a new party member, they give you the option. It says, like, do you want to see their story? And you can essentially play through their story, or you can hit no and they'll just join your party, which is what I'm doing. And then they give you the option to go into the journal, and you can just read through, and it'll show you everything that would have happened if you played through their first part of their story or whatever.
No, because I want to see everything in my first playthrough. If there's something I don't care about doing, and I'll give exception to a few games because they execute it well, but generally I do not like to start a new game immediately after I beat a game. So I want to make sure that I take in everything in the first playthrough. Okay. So I will check in each and one of those intro stories.
Okay. Yeah, well, I've been doing the same, where I've been just checking it out. I have been tempted to just be like, no, just because, you know, all the stories have been good, but like only like 1 or 2 of them have really been like exceptional in my opinion. So I've been tempted, but I have not done that. But has that been working well for you to like follow what's going on in the journal? Because I just found that this morning. I was like, oh man, this is actually pretty useful. I need to look at this more often.
Yeah, I mean, because from what I can gather, you get all of the same like cutscenes you would get if you actually played through it, except I think the only difference is you're not actually going through the motions. So they say, like, okay, you have to go, like in Cyrus's story, they say, okay, you have to go see the headmaster. So you actually have to go through the process of running into the academy, and you got to go find them. Whereas in the journal, they say you see the cutscene that says find the headmaster, and then the next cutscene is that you click on is, okay, you're at the headmaster's now,
so and he's actually shows you the cutscene.
Yeah, it shows you.
Okay. I thought I thought it just gave you a synopsis from what I saw of like kind of what happened.
No, actually, it shows you the full cutscenes.
Oh, okay. So you're not really missing much at all, except like going through a dungeon.
Right. Yeah, and it's, you know, like I said, like, and some of it's not even like a dungeon. You're just like running through the town to get to wherever, you know.
The structure has been the same for each intro character. You start off with a cutscene, you talk to a few people, they show off your skill in the town, and then for some reason you're going into the dungeon by yourself and then fighting a boss. Then you have a reason to go out and travel and go on to the next one. Yeah. Same thing.
What's been your favorite characters thus far? Mine has been Primrose. I really liked hers, and I liked Therion's as well, besides the one issue I brought up. But
Primrose is my favorite also. I think she has like I liked Alberic also, but I think Primrose has a very powerful reason for going out and exploring. the world. She's looking. Well, I don't want to spoil it, but she has a strong motivation to travel out and see where to where she's going.
Yeah, I think my favorite has been Therion. Primrose is one of the ones I haven't gotten yet, so I'm kind of excited to play hers because I know there's a lot of buzz around her character, and she seems to be one of the more popular ones.
Yeah, she's my main character.
Yeah, one thing I will say about that, and I'm not going to spoil it, but there's one part about her character. She's just like waiting around for someone because somebody told her this person comes around here. And I'm like, but then it says it's been 10 years. And I'm like, at some point you would think like, maybe that guy was lying. Like it's been a really like, maybe he doesn't come around here that often. I don't know. But that's the only thing I've noticed too, is occasionally you'll see kind of like little instances like, wait, if you think about this doesn't really make sense that much. But all in all, like, I think like we've been saying is the individual stories are great, but they just don't connect well. One thing I did see some people saying later in the game is you'll have the option to press the plus button and you'll have banter between your characters. I think it's kind of like if you ever played Final Fantasy IX where you press select and you'll get to see like a little scene. So they kind of have that later in the game apparently. So I don't know. I'm sure like all the characters' scenes though, it's gonna probably take on the same route that at the beginning of the game, where once you do that person's story, it's suddenly it acts like the other characters aren't there because I mean they have to plan for the fact of like, well, what if you only choose 2 characters and go through the entire game? So I guess they don't want to create dialogue and scenes for all 8 characters and all these different situations, but. So I'm kind of with Eric. I'm just trying to make it the best I can and just realize, this isn't Final Fantasy VI. It's not, it's not any of these other games. I'm trying not to compare it to those. I'm just trying to imagine it like this is Octopath Traveler. It's its own game. So
I find it funny people are comparing it to Final Fantasy VI to begin with. That like the only connection I make is the graphical style is similar.
Well, the developer said in an interview that it's. Now, he did say mechanically and graphically, Final Fantasy VI, it's a spiritual successor. And I think narratively, he said it was the Saga game I never played them. But anyways, apparently it takes on a similar route with different stories with the characters. So the reason that Final Fantasy 16 came up from what I saw is because the developer said it was a spiritual successor. But I mean, that's kind of a dumb thing you probably shouldn't say anyways, because... You're just asking for trouble.
The same thing, like why would you say that? Because that's one of the most beloved games in JRPGs, and you're gonna say that, oh, this is a spiritual successor, so people are gonna start to expect like, oh, this is just as good as Final Fantasy VI.
I would say it's a spiritual successor of a bad game. I mean, or something. No, maybe not that, but yeah.
I think there's a few things that we all can probably agree on. 3 things. One, I believe we can all agree that the graphics are just absolutely phenomenal in this game. Yeah. Like the artwork and is just solid. And we can all agree the soundtrack is pretty amazing. Like, I love the main battle theme to this game. It's so uplifting. Gets you pumped up and ready for battle. I think that's another thing that helps the repetitiveness of random encounters not feel so bad. And the UI and the system is simple, clean. You know where everything is. It doesn't feel clunky. You don't feel like you have to go into your menus much like certain other games that we've talked about on here. But I mean, yeah, you only go in the menu when you truly need to like just get something in and out of the way. You don't feel like you're like micromanaging so much stuff in there. See, that's what I like. Simplicity with depth. That's really what I ask for most out of the games. And I think this game, for the most part, accomplishes that. You understand what's going on. There isn't like systems within systems within systems. It's just what it is.
You're not 80 hours in the game and you're still like researching like parts of the system and trying to figure this obscure part out. Yeah.
Gonna pop up tutorial like when you're like near the end of the game. It's like, really?
Yeah, I agree with the soundtrack, and I'm not a big soundtrack guy. Like people always talk about, like, oh, I love the soundtrack for this, I love the soundtrack for that, and I'm just kind of like, yeah, it's music, But I agree that this soundtrack on this is really really good,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's good. I've been listening to it on YouTube. I found someone who uploaded the soundtracks. I've been kind of jamming out to that when I'm not playing the game, and I don't know. I plan on finish this game through. It's just my feelings on it are so mixed because everything about this game is done so well, except that one issue that we talked about with the story. So it's like, to me, that's such an important part of the game. But the more I go on, the more I'm starting to just kind of adjust to the way they're telling the story. And I think by the time I get to the end of it, I'll be a little more lenient towards the way they express that. But I'm still kind of baffled why that design choice was made. But not much you can do about it now. So
yeah, the thing I can appreciate most about this game is, and I gotta wait till I fully beat it to give it a full like fully determine how it all was played out. But so far what I've played, what I appreciate is they take what really worked well in the days of old and they still made their own thing out of it. I praise Bravely Default for this. I'm praising this game for it also. They weren't simply just trying to just take what worked in the past and just try to rehash it like Lost Sphere did. It's like, it feels like something genuine, like someone had a great idea and they just wanted to bring it to this game. It's like, no, let's just try to remake what people liked about back then and just hope their nostalgia goggles are on tight enough. It just feels like a new genuine experience with old coat of paint.
Yeah. I mean, the experimentation is what makes this game great, and it's also what hurts it. So, but if I wouldn't have it any other way, so very, very cool. You guys got any final thoughts with Octopath Traveler?
I just want to say, like, I had no expectation coming into this game. Like, I try not to read too much about it. I watched the basic trailers and stuff like that. But like you guys said, the way it's set up, it just kind of has been sucking me in. And like, I have been playing another game on the 3DS, and so now that I played this as well, and I'm 11 hours in, I'm kind of perplexed, and I'm like, whoa, what game will I continue playing? Should I keep playing Octopath or should I play the other game? So it really is a good game, and it has sucked me in. For someone, I had no expectation. To me, I was just like, it's just another JRPG that's coming out. I'll play it, and I'll see what I think. But it really has sucked me in, and I'm only 11 hours in.
Yeah. I just want to keep going back and playing it just whenever I have the free time. Not like other RPGs I've played recently where I'm like more tempted to put the controller down than pick it up. Octopath, it's like I want to pick it back up.
Yeah. I mean, I would rate this game above I Am Setsuna, which I enjoyed. And I'd rate it much higher than Lost Sphere, which I did not enjoy. But that's just me. So,
yeah, definitely above I Am Setsuna. I haven't played Lost Sphere yet.
It doesn't feel generic. I like how I compare it to that.
For sure. All right. So I think that is a good initial impression on Octopath Traveler. Overall, we like it. So very, very, very cool. Moving on. There recently was some buzz on the internet about a Final Fantasy VII remake image showcasing Cloud. It was from a VisualWorks, I don't know what you would say, like a presentation for Unreal Engine 4.
Close enough.
Yeah, close enough, right? But anyways, so there was a slide or two in there with the Final Fantasy VII Remake. So people snapped some photos, and some people were kind of speculating, like this is just for this VR ride that's in Japan. However, if you look at that trailer for the VR ride that's in Japan, it's using the Advent Children model. This model is clearly different than that one and from the remake one. And since we know that they've changed the model of Cloud, like this appears to be most likely the one they're using. It does look a little strange at first when you look at it, but it's mostly because it's
not finished.
Not finished, and they haven't applied all the lighting and textures to his face and some of the shots, so it doesn't look quite like it will. And that's my biggest thing is I don't know how old this is, so I can't really get like super freaked out about it. But I can see why people think he looks a little younger. I don't know, Matt, were you able to look at those images?
Yeah, I took a look at them, and I don't know if to me he looks younger. Like, I don't know, he just doesn't look younger to me. My main thing is when I looked at, especially that one main one that they show, to me, the main thing that first hit me, I was like, he looks like sickly. And I guess that's just because he's not like, it's not a finished image. But then I thought about it. It could be part of the game because, Cloud was supposed to be like, experimented on and everything like that. So he's supposed to maybe look sickly, because they did so much to him,
He's supposed to be 16 in the flashback, right? When he's with Sephiroth.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I don't remember exactly.
Because he's 21 in the main game, and and then 5 years. He claimed it was 5 years ago. So yeah, it's 16.
Yeah.
So it could be. I mean, it could be a younger him, but he did say it did get a redesign. And personally, when I looked at the picture, I like it more just in the fact that he's more capable of more facial expressions beyond mopey, which the FF7 remake trailer, the last one they actually showed, I mean, like his facial expression is just like mostly just looks like he's mopey or he's tired or something like that. And that's not how Cloud was in the original game. I mean, that's fine for Advent Children because it's 2 years later. You can interpret Cloud in that certain way if you want, even though it wasn't great, but but it's more of an excuse for it. You can't really make that excuse in the main FF7 game because, I mean, despite Cloud having a tad of a serious nature to him, it's actually used against him sometimes in FF7, and they use that to their advantage to make more humorous or comedic scenes, like putting him in, like cross-dressing him or making him ride a dolphin over a tower. You can't really do that with Advent Children Cloud because it just feels too weird. But if you have the actual FF7 Cloud, it makes more sense with it. So I think it's right that they make this kind of redesign with him because it works a lot more to it. And I'm just looking at the picture right now, and I mean, he looks like he's like kind of smirking, kind of smiling, that type of deal. And that is really the kind of character Cloud was. It's
Yeah, I mean, well, first, I guess I should explain by when I was saying younger. The only reason I was saying that was because they had that like closed off art exhibit in Japan, and only certain people were allowed to look at the redesign of Cloud. And people were asking these people when they were leaving, well, what did you think of the new redesign? What's it look like? And one of the comments you heard a lot of people saying was, oh, he looks younger. So that's what I was kind of looking at. Like, oh, if this is it, like, I guess he kind of looks younger, but I wouldn't say, 5 years younger, like maybe a tad bit, I guess. But yeah, I totally agree. I mean, he does look like he's a little more a lighter mood. He's not so depressed, like he's got the world on his shoulders. I don't know why not. I mean, he just got done being tortured.
Yeah, his facial features look a lot softer.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. But
I thought he looked a little like I know some pictures of like he's like swinging a sword or whatever, and he didn't look like as strong or muscular or buff that he should look. I don't know if that's a weird takeaway, but I thought he would look a little bit more muscular,
Yeah, I mean, he is skinny, but but he's not so skinny that he looks like he's sick. Like you got to look like he's got to look like that he's gotten muscle to him, that he like works out and he's like in healthy, great condition. Not like he looks like sick and mopey like the other ones do. And honestly, his clothes are kind of contributing to that also. His clothes are like more like realistic. Like in older concepts, he has like more poofy pants and like more soldier like attire, like pants, and his like chest comes out a bit more. And those concepts, but like in this one, he looks like a really skinny guy that barely works out.
Yeah. And there'd be no way he'd be able to lift that Buster Sword either.
Yeah, I mean, we already can't believe that he can lift something like that. Now they're making us believe in even more that it doesn't.
Yeah.
There's no way he can carry that.
Yeah, well, it's kind of strange because if the original Final Fantasy VII, I mean, the model that Cloud had, he had those big blocky like Lego arms. So, you know, like it's kind of hard to think like what was the mental image people had in their mind, because I mean, the guy like looked like freaking like buff with those huge like Lego arms, at least the play model did. So it's kind of jarring when you see like him in kind of these earlier concept images with like you said, Matt, with like the like toothpick arms, and it just doesn't fit. So
I remember thinking the same thing with Advent Children, though. I always thought he looked a little too skinny in that as well.
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree. He definitely was smaller than I thought, and I didn't like it. So, but yeah, I mean, I don't know if how far along these images are in development. I mean, it's totally possible these could be like a year old or something like that. You know, it's a photograph of an image that's in progress. It's not done. So I saw some people that kind of, oh my God, I don't like it. You know, well, it's probably not going to look completely like that, but it is interesting to see the direction they're going. I see that kind of bringing a little bit of the poofiness back in his pants, and that's pretty cool. I like that. Yeah. So
yeah, hopefully we'll see a finished model probably like 2 years or so from now.
Yeah, he said hopefully 2 years. Yeah,
yeah,
for sure. So very cool. I mean, yeah, I was gonna say there was that also that god awful 4chan leak that's spreading on the internet that Final Fantasy 7 Remake is going to come to the Switch, and I'm just like, okay, no, it's not.
I saw that too. I can't imagine that they'd be able to get it on there, but if they do, I'm interested.
Oh yeah, I'll buy it, but
because I don't have much interest, because I've said it on my channel. I'm not a big fan of remakes. To me, you know, I like to just leave the games for what they were at that time period. So I'm not really. It's Final Fantasy VII is my favorite game of all time, but I'm not really interested in a remake, to tell you the truth. But if it came to the Switch, I would definitely pick it up on the Switch.
Yeah, so I don't know. I highly doubt they're doing that, but if they did, I'm sure it would be very, very different than the PS4 version. But I would check it out. I mean, for sure. So, but anyways, it's very, very interesting. Moving on though, we were looking to talk about some game collecting, because we know you like to collect games, Matt. How often do you pick up games?
Oh man, it really depends. You know, sometimes, you know, it might be a few games a month. Last month was a busy month because you know, I live in the Philadelphia area, and Too Many Games is right in our area. So I bought a bunch of games at Too Many Games. It really just varies on what's coming out. I'm notoriously cheap though, so
yeah, me too.
Usually I don't buy new games. To me, I don't like to pay more than $20 for a video game. So it really just depends on what's around or what I can find, you know. So
yeah, I've in the past I've kind of just been like, well, whatever, any way I can get it. But I've really been wanting to get like hard copy games. So I've been trying to go out and just Eric's got quite the collection there. We all know. But I've been trying to, you know, build up my collection a little bit, and where I work at, I found this used video game store right around the corner, and that has been the worst thing for my wallet because like every time I'm like, oh, it's Friday, like let me just check this thing out, and every time I go in there, I say I'm just gonna look, I end up buying something. So I've managed to pick up quite a few in the last month. So I've had to force myself to stop going in there because, when I buy them at stores, they tend to be, even if it's a used game store, they tend to be a little higher price than you could if you found it, especially if you found it like a garage sale or something, you can get like great prices. But I don't know. I don't like the idea of me going out garage sale shopping, but I just had to tone it back a little bit. But
my big thing is I am pretty successful with eBay, actually. But there's very specific things you have to look for. Like, I check out newly listed stuff and I'll type in a search for, I'm a big Vita collector. I love the Vita. So I'm always like typing in like JRPG Vita, newly listed. And what I find is if you go to the newly listed stuff, sometimes you can get a good deal because, some people might not put in that specific search option. And so it might not be coming up on, everything, or if you just type in Vita games or something. So eBay is my big downfall.
The one thing with eBay is, I go through eBay occasionally myself if I just can't find it in my area. But what I like about eBay, because I collect retro stuff mostly. When I do my game collecting, a lot of the stuff I have here is just like years of just me getting like the latest and greatest. But then like I have stuff over here also, particularly like my Super Nintendo, N64, stuff like that. And when I go on eBay, I look in there and I see like something that's usually worth like $200. I'm like, and it's like $50. I'm like, okay, what's up with this? That's making it 50. This is too good to be true. And I look in. And like in tiny text, when you scroll down, you look in the details, it's like, this is a recreational cart. I'm like, oh, there you go. You're trying to
definitely have to check out the description. That's number one. You have to read, because a lot of times, sometimes you'll see people try to they'll just be selling like the box. But they won't put that in the description.
Like $8, yeah.
Yeah, you have to go into actually click on the actual typed up description of the game, and then it says in there box only.
Yeah, I think my most recent purchase off eBay, I bought Vagrant Story, and 'cause I never owned the actual game, and like it came with the disc just fine, and even had the bonus disc in it. I think that has Final Fantasy VIII, the demo. Which was cool, but the jewel casing, they just printed off the image from like the internet and just cut it and stuck it in like a jewel case. And I was like, man, that's not the way you made it look on your eBay page. So,
I'll ask a lot. Sometimes if something looks a little sketchy to me, I'll go in and I'll say, is the game complete? Does it come with original artwork? If there's supposed to be a manual, I'll say, does it come with the original manual? And I'll ask very specific questions. And I know sometimes they don't get back to you. So obviously okay, there's something up with that one. But most of the time, my experience has been pretty good on eBay, but there's very specific things that I'll look at,
Yeah.
I couldn't help but notice that you're a man of culture as well, having that Arc de Light collection behind you.
Oh yeah. That was actually a game store pickup. I think I got a pretty good price on it. I feel like I think I only paid about $60 for it, and it's complete. Actually, no, they told me it's complete, but when I got home, I noticed that they come with thumbsticks for the PS1 controllers, and one of the little thumbsticks was missing or whatever. But
yeah, it comes with the 2 thumbsticks, a memory card holder, and a little cardboard standee for each and every character, which unfortunately is lost on mine because I got this when I was middle school, so of course I messed with it, but I got everything else.
Okay.
Yeah, I got that one early. A friend showed me that one. I was like, I got to get this game series. It's 3 games in one.
Yeah, I think it's 4. It's the original 1 through 3, and then there's a game on there. It's the Arc de Light Arena or something they call it or whatever.
Oh yeah, they're Pokemon-ish type of deal. Like how it works is you can. I had a friend who played also, so we actually did take advantage of it. Is you get the monsters that you capture from Arctolad 2, and you put them in there, and your friend puts his from his memory card in there, and you two fight each other with your monsters on it. I mean, it's nothing big, but it's dumb fun.
Yeah, I've only played through the first game. I just ended up downloading it on my Vita and I played it that way.
Yeah, that works good. Yeah, because the cool thing is you can convert your save from the first one to the second one, and it just straight out takes all the data from that to the second one. That's not so impressive today, but back then that was like,
yeah.
Yeah, very, very cool. One thing I've been having a little bit of luck with on my end, because I've been trying to think of ways to not spend so much money, because I am a cheap guy. I tend to be on certain things. Is because I was in the Marine Corps, I've been going to Goodwill on Fridays, and they got like a Veterans Day. So I'm able to, sometimes you'll be surprised what people just drop off. And like, for example, just even recently, I got this game. I'm holding up the camera. I don't have my camera on for you guys, but it's Outrun 2006 Coast to Coast for PS2. I got this game for $2, and you look on eBay, it's like $25-$30. So I've been finding games like that almost every week when I go to the Goodwill around the corner, and I'm getting these games for like $2, and they're pretty good shape. And so I guess that does kind of make me a reseller a little bit, but I'm just selling it on eBay, getting some extra money, and then going to the game store around the corner and buying what I want. But
yeah, another cool thing is yard sales. Now, most of the yard sales are like, if they do have games there, is like an old beat up PS2 or like various sports titles that are worth like a dime.
Yeah.
Today, like Madden 2002, and I see they put like a sticker on it for like $10 for it. I'm like,
yeah, no.
But there are times that I have found that they're getting rid of like an old NES collection or an old Super Nintendo collection or something, and like a lot of them in there are just like worthless ones. But you find like something relatively nice, and they're selling it for like just like a few bucks when it's like $40 on the internet. Yeah. That's happened once. I don't remember which one it was. I've been to so many yard sales in the past, but I don't know. Today, my collection hunting has been kind of slower because I've got other things going on currently. But as soon as I get everything back on track, I'll probably be collecting more again. But for now, this is probably going to be as big as it gets till I move again.
Yeah, I actually don't have a lot of luck with yard sales. And I don't know if it's just because like I live in like a kind of like a bigger city area, but I feel like to get at yard sales, to get video games, you have to be there at 6 a.m. Like even if they say like, oh, it doesn't start till 8, you got to be there at 6, and you have to be waiting at their front door to actually get the video game. So I feel like I don't have luck with yard sales in my area.
I don't do that. I mean, I go at like 8 in the morning.
Yeah.
But I live in Richmond, Virginia, and in the city itself, with people who are selling stuff like in their area, it's a lot of people who are around my age. I'm 29, so a lot of people in that area are like around my age, and they're selling a lot of their old stuff. So seeing that vintage hipster collection stuff is more common in my area. Not that common, but common enough that it's possible to see something interesting from it. But yeah, I still think like the best thing really is going to just like a retro game store. You can get it, feel it in your hand. You can see if it's real or fake, and you can buy it from there and not feel like you got ripped off on eBay. Granted, my eBay experience hasn't been too bad. I haven't had any real incidents with any users on there. I usually go with the people who have a 98, 99% positive rating on them.
Yeah, same here. Yeah.
Let me go ahead.
My thing lately has been I've been getting into like the figures and stuff like that. Like, I got the protagonist from Persona 4 and everything. That was a too many games pick up, but that sort of like has been real recently where I'm like, I like the look of having some figures up there, so that's sort of my thing now that I'm really into. I'm getting more into collecting the video game themed figures, especially with Toys R Us closing, and they had all their like pops on sale and everything, and amiibos and everything. So that wasn't good for the wallet.
Very cool. Well, that's really sad about Toys R Us, by the way. That's going under. But I was like, when's the last time I've been there? A long time.
No. But, I wanted to go to the clearance or liquidation sale there, but I completely forgot about it. And I was thinking to myself, anything good there is probably already gone. So
yeah. But well, since you guys been collecting for a while now, I sent y'all kind of a link to a video about the recent controversy surrounding a couple different YouTubers, but mainly the big target was Metal Jesus Rocks, the YouTuber.
I like him. He's pretty cool.
He's an awesome dude from what I've seen.
Yeah.
But some game collectors have been doing it for a while. Have been complaining that Metal Jesus Rocks Hidden Gem series videos. He does a lot of those where he goes, "Hey, here's some hidden gems on PS2, right, or whatever system," and he'll go through like 10 or 11 games that he really likes that he picked up, and people that collect games are complaining and saying that Metal Jesus Rocks is like ruining game collecting because whenever he makes videos about these games, the prices of these games have actually been shown to like skyrocket on eBay for a while. And like I guess some people are getting mad that he's getting more people in the game collecting. So they feel like it's like garage sales are more packed now than they've ever been. And like, I don't know, like I just want to get your guys' opinion on that whole thing.
Well, few things. One, when a YouTuber like Angry Video Game Nerd or Metal Jesus Rocks shows a video game that or presents a video game like that, at worst it does a little bit for just like maybe at worst like a week. Then after that, like the prices go like pretty much right back down because people have already forgotten about the video like a week later. And another thing is when people get mad at someone like Metal Jesus Rocks for showing a game like that, or just like underrated gems or something, or something like that, and people are complaining like, oh, now it's too expensive to go get. It's like, were you really planning on getting it beforehand? Before he presented it to you, were you actively seeking that game? Were you looking everywhere for it? Then he made a video about it, and it's just like the price just skyrocketed on it. And
well, that makes me happy because when I watch his videos, sometimes he'll pull up a game that I own, and I'm like, that was a great game. I love that game. And I like now that I know he's talking about it, now I know the price of my collection has gone up. It's great, right? The value of it, anyways. But Matt, what do you got?
Well, my viewpoint is like you can't blame the YouTubers. I mean, it's more if you want to blame anyone, I guess you'd have to blame the people that are selling the games. Like, from what I understand, what happens is like Metal Jesus will release a Hidden Gems video and he'll showcase, maybe 10 games or whatever. And then these resellers watch that video, and if they have that game and they're selling it, they're going to say, people are going to want this game now, so I'm going to maybe bump the price up 10 or 20 bucks, So I think if you're going to blame anyone, you have to blame the resellers. And sometimes it's not even people selling. It's not even their fault because it might be an auction and people are going to bid what they're willing to pay. So if they're willing to pay that, it's all supply and demand, I guess, So you can't really blame the YouTubers. They're just saying, hey, this is a cool game, which is pretty much what we all do anyway, even if we're not on YouTube, when we're just sitting around saying, hey, this is a really cool game, you should check it out, So you can't blame someone for telling you about cool games.
Yeah. I mean, it's weird. Like I don't understand why somebody would get mad about that. I mean, I can see where somebody might get upset with like the people that are collecting all the SNES classics off the shelves and then holding on to them and reselling them for 4 times the cost or something. But I mean, I don't know. I feel like I have an amount I'm willing to pay for some of this stuff. And if it goes above that amount, I'm not buying it.
Yeah.
Eventually, it's going to come back down. You know?
If you're an active game collector, then you should know pretty well that these price spikes don't last. Like the games, depending on how much there are in stock or there's not in stock, something like that, it really determines like the worth and price of value ultimately. Like when he does a video or something, like I said, the worst that happens is resellers take advantage of it for like a week. And a lot of resellers don't do this. They still keep it relatively priced unless it's like the majority of people are raising the price up. Because I remember a time where Contra for NES was like really cheap. You can get it for one time you can get it for like $10 for a pretty decent condition of it. And then the next year, it turns out there's actually not that many Contras left in stores. So the price got risen to $40 to $50 for it. I mean, that's just the nature of the collecting. There's going to be so many reasons why a game goes up and down in price. I mean, and someone who presents on YouTube can be the reason, but it's not so much a reason that it just stays up there. Like if a game is like $10, then Metal Jesus shows it and then like goes $100 for some reason, it's not going to stay at 100. I mean, like in the course of a week or two, it's going to go back down to maybe $20 or $30.
Yeah. So it's not like it's like permanently affecting things. And also like, I mean, if more people are into like what you're doing as a hobby, like, shouldn't that be kind of cool in of itself too? Right. You don't want to be the only person doing what you're doing. I mean, wouldn't you want like to be doing something and be able to talk about it with other people? So I don't know. It seems kind of weird to like want it all to yourself, you know?
I'm supportive to my fellow game collectors. If there's something I know they're looking for, I'll like show them, be like, hey, this is, I saw this is what you're looking for. Do you want me to pick it up? And you just give me the money, that type of deal. And like when my friend, like I've had friends who have like found like really rare hidden gems that like I wish I had. And I'm like, whoa, sweet, nice find. Where'd you find it? Like, did they have another by chance?
Yeah. So it is strange. It's a strange take on it for sure. I don't know, but I thought that was kind of interesting that like people were actually blaming him for their own anger with the prices of items. It just kind of surprised me that somebody could be that dense, but
it's just people that, like Eric kind of touched on, it's just people that, you know, they see a cool game now and they're like, oh, I want to buy this game, but now it's expensive because it was just shown on this video. But like Eric also said, is like, well, were you planning on buying it before? And I mean, personally, I don't understand how you can get mad at someone about any of this stuff. You know, it's just video games. You know, it's games. You know, so don't get mad about it.
If you really want to get into game collecting, you need to learn how the market works. And sometimes, I mean, you got to realize there's just so many reasons why a game can go up and down. Like a Chrono Trigger physical copy goes between $200 and $300 all the time. And
well, case in point, when I was in high school, I used to get like really excited because my copy of Final Fantasy VII was going for like $150 on eBay. And I was like, dude, it's going to be worth thousands of dollars when I'm like 40. And then they released it on the PlayStation 3, you know, store. And all of a sudden it was like, nope, like $30 on eBay. Like,
oh yeah. Marvel vs. Capcom 2 is very famous for this. Like that game used to be like really expensive, like on, especially the Dreamcast version. I believe the second one was on Dreamcast. Mm-hmm. And like that one was really expensive, but as soon as they put it on the digital arcade, like the price of it dropped down to like $50. It used to be like $150 to $200 for a copy.
And it's surprising that it has that much of an effect also, because the whole time when these games were selling for however much money, I mean, I don't know about Dreamcast, but like, you know, all these PlayStation games, you could just go download the ROM and play it if you really wanted to. So, but I guess that's more difficult than going onto a store and buying it. So,
yeah, it just goes to show that people ultimately wanted to play the game more than just collect it and have it up on their shelf.
Sure.
Well, I think that's part of my thing, how I don't understand how people can get mad, because I only just buy games that I want to play. Like, I don't do the whole sealed thing or anything like that. Like everything I buy, I intend on playing at some point. So I just buy games that I want to play. So I don't, there's some people that will like see a game out there and say, "Oh, this is a rare game, so I have to have it because it's rare." Could be the worst game ever, but they still want to get it just because it's rare,
Yeah.
Same. And I'll make exceptions, like if it's something like very, very unique. But generally, I go in with the mindset of I want to play this. I want to put it in my Super Nintendo and play it.
Yeah, I mean, it's got to be something you're interested in. Otherwise, I think you're just going to run out of money if you go in trying to just buy everything that's rare, even regardless of whatever it is. You're just like, oh, Atari game, rare. Let me buy that. And you don't even have a system to play it on. So, yeah, that can get you in trouble for sure. But did you guys want to go ahead and move on to the comments?
Sure thing. Sure.
Cool. So we had a lot of comments last week. So let's just start at the top. We got Andrew Tyler. He said, "You guys were such great guests on the Dark Pixel podcast. Looking forward to your podcast as well."
Thank you.
Yeah, we were Matt. I don't know if you saw, but we were on the Dark Pixel podcast. We were guests on there. So
yeah, I did see it. You guys were good on there.
Thank you. Appreciate that. BioPhoenix, good guy there. He says, "I'm still excited for Octopath, but I feel like trying to compare it to the likes of Final Fantasy VI or Chrono Trigger is just too unrealistic. There's so many RPGs that unfortunately either did not sell well or get a bad rep from people that said it was not like that or not like the etc. When yet on their own, they're still good on their own and what they offer. People just need to take off their rose-tinted glasses and take each game they play for what it is because it's hard to be original these days." He says some other stuff, but that was his main point.
I agree. It doesn't need to be revolutionary. It just needs to be good.
Yeah, and I think that's sort of what we were touching on earlier when we were talking about, them comparing or saying it's a spiritual successor to Final Fantasy VI. So it's kind of like just take a game for what that game is. Don't try not to compare it to anything else or think it's going to be just as good or anything. Just take it for what it is,
Yeah, for sure. He does bring up that he's never played, and another comment, he brought up that he's never played Star Ocean because we're talking about that last episode. But he said he's never played a Star Ocean game. He's more likely going to play 1 or 2. Do you guys have a particular Star Ocean game that you would recommend to BioPhoenix?
2 is probably the best one, but 2 is a lot better if you played the first one because it is directly related to the first game. So yeah. I'd say go 1 to 2. 3 I liked. It's not as good as 1 and 2, but I enjoyed those. And 4 wasn't too bad. 4 gets a lot of bad rep, but I don't think the game was so bad that you can't play it. It just wasn't like anything that was out there or outstanding. And I know there's a comment talking about someone liking Star Ocean 5, so I'll just save it for that.
Yeah. Matt, did you ever play any of the Star Ocean games?
No, I'm in the same boat as BioPhoenix. I haven't played any of them. I think I have 1 through 4. I have the first 2 on the PSP. So when I do eventually get into the series, I'll probably just start at 1,
Yeah. I've played the first one. I had to get a fan translation for the Super Nintendo. So I emulated that one, but I really liked that one. From what I played, I didn't finish it. And then the fourth one, I played that one. I liked that one. Just recently, I picked up the third one, but Eric's been talking so much trash that I've been...
The third one? No, play through the third one's not bad.
Okay. I thought you said you didn't like that one.
No, I mean, I have mixed feelings about it because there are certain parts of the story that are very controversial.
Well, I know how the game ends, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like the journey there is fine, but like how everything turned out, I was just like, okay.
Yeah, so... Well, anyways, I'm going to play it eventually here. I got it picked up. I found a good price on it, so I'm going to be playing it eventually here, hopefully within the next couple of months. So I'll give it a shot. But Terry 309, he says, because last episode we're kind of trashing Star Ocean 5 a little bit. And he said he enjoyed Star Ocean 5. I don't really get why people hate on it so much. It had its flaws, but it wasn't terrible. It was actually quite fun for me. Eric, did you want to say something in regards to that?
I mean, opinions, man. But like I said before, my main complaints of Star Ocean 5 are primarily it has really bad no cinematography. Very rarely do you get any form of cinematography in that game. It's like everyone's talking in the room and you can't tell how people are acting or expressing. And this is a JRPG game where that's very important. It's not like Skyrim where you're in first person and you see the person in front of you talking. It's like, no, you're in a room full of people in third person and you just can't really get the message of what's going on in there. The open world felt uninspired. Like you're just traveling through one place to another. There wasn't really a need to explore. So that felt pointless. The 8-man, like I said, the 8 people in combat at once made it chaotic, clunky, and the AI was bad to the point that I had to get on a healer just to make sure my dumb AI survived.
Yeah.
And the other thing is the game is pretty short, like 20, 25 hours short, if I remember correctly.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I told Terry, I kind of replied and I said, hey, I've seen the game for relatively cheap now. I've seen it at places as low as $15. And, I kind of like from the games I've played, I've liked it. So I told him I would pick it up and give it a shot. I mean, I think a lot of it has to do with the price point. Because like, for example, I Am Setsuna, I paid $20 for that game and I really enjoyed that game. Whereas with Lost Sphere, I paid $50 for that game. And I think the fact that I spent $50 kind of made me a little more critical of the game, right? So I kind of wonder also if you bought this game day one, if, I don't know, on top of that, you had expectations, but I don't know, all the criticism you brought up though, I've seen elsewhere. So, but
yeah, I agree with that. I was going to maybe kind of make that same point where I think sometimes the price that you pay will sometimes influence your thoughts on the game. Like I got I Am Setsuna. I imported it from Play Asia because I wanted to get the physical edition and everything. And I think I paid like, $49.99 plus shipping for the game, So for like a $50+ game, it's kind of like, well, don't pay that for I Am Setsuna. You can get it like Hat did for $20. Yeah, it's good for $20,
Yeah, I agree. Both I Am Setsuna and Lost Sphere are decent. I would be a lot more forgiving of them if they were $20 games because they certainly feel like $20 games. They don't feel like $50 games at all.
Yeah, they don't. They feel like something's not quite there. Yeah, they feel like micro RPGs for sure.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest flaw of them is they're way too expensive for what they are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. Then we have Patrick J. He was kind of commenting on providing some context for a lot of our Square Enix talk last week. So we'll just kind of breeze through that. But he kind of gives a couple of corrections and then some extra context. So we'll just go through that. He says to answer Eric at 11 minutes and 53 seconds. I don't know what we said at that point, but he said
it's 11 minutes and 53 seconds. Yes.
Well, here's a little thing I could click on it. But he says it's a Business Division 1 or Square Enix doing the Final Fantasy 7 Remake. The division is overseen by Katase and features a lot of other Final Fantasy 10, 10-2, and 13 trilogy staff. So I don't know. I maybe we got the wrong business division, but
if I remember my comment correctly, I didn't know the exact context of how the business divisions worked internally, and I think he's just explaining that to me.
Yeah. So yeah, and Katase, like we said, I liked him. I liked him as a director on Final Fantasy X. I thought he did a good job. 7, 6. I kind of liked 8. So as a director, I liked him on there. So it's cool that he's involved with this, and even if it's just a producer role. I didn't really like the 13 trilogy stuff, but is what it is. But he says, Hat, you're right. PC gaming is way less in Japan than in the West. That's right. I'm gonna put that on a wall. Hat, you're correct. So, anyways, he says, I agree that Yoshida will be in charge of Final Fantasy 16, the business division he's in charge of, the 5th division. Started hiring for a major new project not related to Final Fantasy 14 in 2016, which I think is 16.
I don't agree with that.
I'm going to keep going and then you give your thoughts.
Okay.
And Patrick J., we're just giving our thoughts here. It's cool if you disagree. But he says, some people also noticed that some major staff who worked on 14 until Heaven's Word expansion were not credited in Stormblood, which was being made when Square started hiring for the previously mentioned big project. So they might be working on 16. This is an informative post about it from a forum. Quote, several of the major team leads on the Final Fantasy 14 stepped down after Heaven's Word, including the director of The Last Remnant and the Final Fantasy 12 lead planner. And 2.0 and Heaven's Word, Hiroshi Takai, I don't know how to say his name. The assistant directors. Hold on, let me just get to the gist of this. So he's naming all these people and their positions. Okay, at the end of the Heaven's Word patch cycle, just before Stormblood, all 3 stepped aside. So he named 3 people in all the games they worked on. Stepped aside. Stormblood is carried by new leads who are promoted from the respective teams. So we have a director, a battle planner, and a scenario writer who worked on the most well-received FF game in the last decade, suddenly doing nothing for about a year now. I don't know. I mean, Eric, what do you think?
That's always possible, but I have my doubts that Naoki Yoshida is doing FF16. Primarily, I keep up with a lot of interviews that he does for FF14. Like almost each time a new patch comes out, he's being interviewed by other companies. And the idea of directing Final Fantasy 16 has been asked more than once of him. And his most recent one is that he hasn't been asked to, but he said that he currently wants to just stay on FF14. But he said he doesn't make the rules of the company, and if the company wants him to make FF16, then he'll go and do it because he's technically an employee there, even though he's part of the board now. But he hasn't openly expressed that he has any involvement in FF16, and he's constantly busy with FF14. And he travels around the world constantly for it, giving interviews and going to E3 and going to Europe for their expos to promote Final Fantasy 14. So he spends a lot of time with FF14. So I have my doubts that he will be involved in FF16, but it's always possible. They could always be like, hey, just take less trips around the world and say more in Japan.
Well, and to be fair, I mean, I would assume that if he has accepted to do it, besides, what you brought up with him traveling a lot, he wouldn't come out and say that he's directing it, right? I'm pretty sure they'd keep it under wraps. But
as far as we know, by Square Enix, FF16 doesn't exist yet.
Yeah, the only thing I know is we had Agnes Philosophy, and some people tend to think that might be 16. I hope they don't make a whole nother game based off a trailer. But would Square Enix do it a third time? I don't know, but maybe. Matt, did you ever get in the Final Fantasy 14 at all?
No, I never had. When it really started coming out, like 11 and then 14, I wasn't really into the whole online thing because growing up as a kid, we didn't really have, fast internet or anything like that. So I never really got into anything online. But recently, me and my brother Jim had a conversation, and we were contemplating maybe trying to dive into some of 14 because nowadays it's just everything is online. So it's just as easy to hook your PS4 online as it is, just hooking up your phone or something like that. It's not like back in the PS2 days where you would have to run the wire into your modem and everything like that.
Or even before that, you'd have to make sure nobody, it would take up a phone line and people couldn't call the house or something.
Someone's trying to call and it was busy and everything. So I never really got into the online stuff. So anything that has ever been online, I'm just kind of like, it's online. I don't really do the whole online thing, but it's almost like these games are all online nowadays. You know, when you buy a new game, it connects online and it essentially downloads the game, you know? So to me, my mindset is kind of changing where I'm just kind of like, before it was, for me, it was, that's an online game. This is a not online game. Whereas now it's a little bit more of a gray area where everything is online. So I kind of have been considering maybe jumping into some Final Fantasy 14. I don't know a whole lot about it, to tell you the truth.
You can do a free trial up to level 35. There's no time limit on it. You can play as much as you want, but just the one thing to it is that you are limited to level 35 and you don't have access to expansion content like new races. That's about it.
How's it story-wise? Because I always have this perception as well that, like, okay, anything that's online is more into, like, you know, gaming with other people, and the story is a little bit less intense as it would be on a
single player.
Yeah, single player.
Let me put it this way: if you combined all the FF13 trilogy and FF15, all their story quality, and added it together, FF14 would still blow them out of the water.
Okay.
Like the story, what the best thing about FF14 is, God, I've said this so many times in the podcast, is it does a very good job acting like a mainline Final Fantasy, because the main scenario content, 90% of the content is solo. You don't have to be with other people. When you enter a dungeon or do a boss fight / trial fight, you do have to gather with other people, but they have a system called Duty Finder. And then the Duty Finder, you pick what content you want to do. Like, say you wanted to fight Ifrit. You pick Ifrit, and what it'll do is it will find other party members for you. And then you all go in there. You don't have to shout for people. Be like, can you want to do Ifrit with me? It's like, no, you just pick it, and you do have to wait a little bit depending on the content. If it's older content, you might be waiting like 15 minutes or so, but you do get into it, and you can do other stuff while you're waiting. And I mean, it does such a good job mainstreaming the story, and it only gets better. I would say like Heaven's Ward and Stormblood are some of the best FF story content I have seen in a very long time.
Okay. I've only played the first game, and I can say even just from that game, and I know that story is not supposed to be as good as the other expansions, but I will say the first, the first beginning of the story, it's a little kind of like, I don't know about this, but then once it starts to get going, I had a lot of fun with it, so it's good.
It might be
go ahead.
The whole co-op thing might be a deterrent for me, because for me, I don't know. I just like to play on my own and, you know, play by myself and everything. So I might have an issue if I'm playing and then I'm like, okay, I got to find some other people and wait around for some other people to come in and play.
The coordination is a lot simpler.
Okay.
Anything. If you, like I said, the trial's free. You got to put no money towards it. All you have to do is just log on, try it. If you don't like it, then you just get off of it. And I mean, no money on your end. Only your time was wasted.
Right.
Yeah. So I didn't realize they were giving it away for free till level 35. So that's awesome.
I will say this. In my little church of FF14, each person I've convinced to do the free trial, almost each person I've convinced to do the trial has purchased the game. And, you know, and are still trying to get through it today. So
very cool. I'm starting to suspect that Eric secretly works for Square Enix.
Oh, trust me, if I did, I'd try to be finding all the FF7 Remake info.
Yeah, whenever the podcast ends, he's just like, I hate Square Enix. I just need a day off.
This is my place of vent at them. Guys, did you even know they're not even going to release FF7 Remake till 2026?
Yeah.
I think he might be hired to on the podcast tell everyone like, oh, you know, we don't know if it's coming out. Then as soon as he logs off, he's calling in saying, don't worry, they're not on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Kind of, yeah.
That's the biggest game I've praised from them, though. I mean, on the other hand, The other popular thing we like to do on here is bash on FF15.
Oh yeah, I feel like we could have a podcast just about that. So, but we've been trying to tone it down a little bit because a lot of people have enjoyed it. So,
hey, we haven't talked about it in a little while.
Yeah,
that's because they've given no news.
I've made a conscious effort not to. So
they don't give us info to work with. We don't talk about it.
Yeah. So we also have Leanne B. She comments at 47 minutes 50 seconds. A link. But that's I clicked on it, and that's when we were talking about Setsuna and Lost Sphere. How I like Setsuna, but we just did not like Lost Sphere. She said it seems that everyone who played both Setsuna and Lost Sphere had the same exact reaction. I was listening to Colin's Last Stand the other day and found out he loved Setsuna and hated Lost Sphere. I played Setsuna last year when it came out on Switch, and I loved it. Maybe because it was the only JRPG available at launch, Square's online store, and I was so available at launch and not being able to play it at work hooked me in. I don't know. I loved it. I skipped a line. That's what messed me up. So when I heard about Lost Sphere, I pre-ordered it from Square's online store, and I was so thrilled when it arrived earlier this year. I couldn't play past 5 hours no matter how hard I tried. Just couldn't get into it. I can sense great potential with Tokyo RPG Factory, but I think they need to go back to the drawing board and see where they went wrong. Yeah, I think. Go ahead.
I will say I Am Setsuna is a lot better than Lost Sphere.
Yeah, I enjoyed I Am Setsuna, and Lost Sphere. I'm telling you, like it just was. I was falling asleep playing the game. I kept thinking about like doing other things, like doing different chores that I need to get done instead of playing the game, and it was just I wasn't enjoying it. So
yeah, you know, you got a title of greatness when the first thing that's coming to your mind is, I don't think I've cleaned the chimney recently.
Well, let me just take care of that instead. Yeah.
So, I'm kind of like concerned a little bit for Tokyo RPG Factory, just because, you know, they've put out 2 games now, and I think the overall consensus is they're just mediocre games, and they're a part of Square Enix, whereas now, like, they've put out Octopath Traveler now, and I think that Octopath Traveler is what they wanted I Am Setsuna to be. So there's kind of like that, at least in my mind, I'm kind of like, well, what's the point of having Tokyo RPG Factory when Square Enix proper is putting out that type of game anyway, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the Bravely Default studio is pretty legit. Like, they made Bravely Default and Second, which were both pretty good games, and Octopath Traveler here. It's like they have a better grasp on what was great about retro RPGs and still want to do their own thing. And Tokyo RPG Factory is like, hey, let's take what we liked about back then and just do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Octopath Traveler is more like it's still experimenting. It's still moving the genre forward. And, I Am Setsuna just felt like, hey guys, remember this? Like, it's kind of just a nice nostalgia trip, but it doesn't really try to like do anything great. And I think that's the big thing. Like you were saying, Matt, it's just kind of mediocre. If you're nostalgic about it, it might be a little above mediocre. Like I caught a couple of different nods of different franchises in the game. So it was kind of like a nice ride for me, but if you just look at it objectively, it's very mediocre. So, but definitely better than the Lost Sphere. But I have no idea what they're going to do for their third game, because
if there is a third game,
I don't. Yeah, they might do mobile games from now on. I don't know.
So those type of games would be appropriate on a mobile device. It's like it's turn-based, and a virtual pad would work just fine with it.
Well, they couldn't charge $50 for it though.
Well, you underestimate Square Enix. I mean, their prices are pretty heavy on mobile.
That's true. But anyways, that about wraps this episode up. We went a little longer than usual, but Matt, we appreciate you coming on. It's always good to have a third person on here. We should do it more often. Check out his YouTube page, Jam Gamecast. A lot of good stuff on there. And are you planning on what? Do you have a topic you want to? Well, you were talking about possibly another podcast. Is there another topic you're thinking about making a review or anything in the future that you're thinking about right now? Or
I have a couple of videos that I'm going to be working on. I recently just finished Conception 2 on the Vita, which is a very weird JRPG. So I'll be doing an impressions video on that, and I'm going to be doing for the first time a video just myself. I'm going to be doing a top 5, and it's going to be my top 5 least favorite JRPGs that I've played. So that's sort of a new thing for me, the whole top 5 thing. So that'll probably be the next video that comes out.
Very cool. So if you're watching this, like I said, go subscribe to his channel, Jam Gamecast. I'll leave a link in the description, and you guys can look forward to that. But until next week, talk to you all later.
Take care.
Thanks for having me on.